Hey everybody, Nullface here in Eternal Evolution. Going to talk a little bit about Northian, the, I guess not new hero, but the most recent hero released, as well as some of the new gear sets that have been put out in the dungeons recently, which do some kind of interesting stuff. At least a few of them do, and a few of them are a little strange. So we'll take a look through those here in a little bit. I wanted to start with Nord. He's of course been a subject of quite a bit of attention lately. He's doing a lot of crazy stuff in story mode and pushing through campaign. Ridiculous damage in the Spider Guild boss. I'm sure he'll do great work in Twilight too when we get up to that. He's basically just everywhere throughout the game. Like a lot of other people who are using him, I have him in a Marauder set, and he has been doing so much work for me and pushing pretty much all types of content recently. It's not even a great Marauder set. It's decent, right? Damage reduction attack, defense and crit rate, a little bit of crit damage in there. Not a great piece. Attack crit damage is all right. Running him in overload boots, actually decent. Damage reduction boots. This is kind of his half tank, half damage build. Running him in an attack helm as well. I do sometimes, because it's not a great helm, honestly, it's just the only attack helm I have in Marauder. I will trade this out for an HP helm if I need a little bit more survivability. If my math is right, this gives him about 144,000 HP, give or take, and the other one's about 230 if you put him in an HP helm. So, a little bit more tankiness sometimes helps. I'll swap that in and out. And then crit rate gloves with some more damage reduction on them. Like, none of it is amazing gear, but at the same time, the Marauder set bonus here, right? That's not really a great view of it. We'll look at it a little bit later here, but that just allows him to push through so much content that he wouldn't normally when you pair him up with a reset like Res and the lifesteal and CC on his alt. It's pretty crazy. Of course, pushed him to exclusive 30 right away, so that's how good he was. It's just that, and also hyper evolved him right away too. Zero regrets. I'll probably finish off his last levels here if I have the materials before Twilight starts, just to optimize him, because I think he's going to be in pretty much every team in there. He is probably going to be the new Leo, more or less. But he's been doing really, really well. Account progression now, I'm up to chapter 5640 at this stage. This one's not fun. There's two Ordens and an Omar. I'll figure it out at some point, but most of that, I was at 5418 before, and it's just been a steady push on through those. We'll have some recordings of a couple of them here and kind of how I've gone through it with the other heroes. It's not always energy heroes either. I trade them in and out. Sometimes I'll use Daniel, sometimes Anpu, depending on kind of what I need to do with the rest of the opponents on the map. But before we do that, I'll take a look at a couple of the new gear sets, especially even a test of the one that I have managed to acquire so far and use. It looks pretty good. And see what this might be good for. We'll start with the Roulette of Truth, incorrectly labeled as the Crimson Rod. I think they accidentally flipped the descriptions here. And that would be the Burst set. So attack bonus, and every time a user casts a ranged skill, inflicts additional damage as true damage to the target. The moment I saw this, I thought, no, that's a set meant for Luke if I ever saw one. He just sits in the back line, crazy good range, and already does true damage too. So I did manage to get a burst set. It is not a good one, but it is a burst set, and I tossed it on Luke and did some really, really quick trials in what's the thing? In the first Ancient Altar boss. So I will play those here, and kind of let you look at the results. So for comparison, these are the two Luke builds. This one here is the burst set, sitting at 93,500 total attack. 43k bonus. If I go over to equipment loadout, look at, he has an attack set up here somewhere. Full attack. He gains about 6k. He does get just over 100k attack when I equip that. Of course, he doesn't crit an appreciable amount, so doesn't really notice that. That's the main damage, or main difference rather. So we're losing about 7,000 attack. Let's keep that in mind when we're looking at the damage comparisons. So that was pretty good. I was surprised it outperformed as, I guess, as obviously as it did. Definitely come in handy if I can keep Luke alive during some of those late story stages. When you can get the actual damage from this using my not max level, unfortunately, Vision Stone, you can get 800k true damage hits on some of those enemies already. Add this little bit extra in there from burst, you might be close to 1 million true damage when he ults across the enemies out there. So be pretty good stuff. Next up, we have the actual Crimson Rot set, the Gnaw Set. I'm not sure about this one. It's intriguing to me because when you think about it combined with Anpu's Corpse Explosion skill that does additional damage to shields, I wonder if this could potentially be an alternative to using hunters in some of those Hunter Bond Twilight stages. I'm just not thinking off the top of my head of anyone else who has such a significant shield that it would be worth putting a gear set out there for, especially an accuracy-based set. It really feels intended to be used on Anpu and maybe Cerveli. I just don't know how it's going to work. If I happen to have one, maybe I'll try it in Twilight and see. But I don't foresee that one being particularly useful. I would love to be proven wrong, though. We're going to get the gear anyway. It may as well be useful, right? I guess one more note on that. The thing that makes me question it, if it were just 20%, that would be really good. But cannot exceed 100% of target's attack, or 100% of attack. So the shields in those Twilight stages are just so massive, namely 14.4, 14.7. I don't think this is going to dent it. Like I say, if I can get a set in time, I'll give it a try. I would love to have an alternative to those stages, but we'll have to see. And lastly, the Mirage space now gives out, look at Marauder, right? In case you couldn't catch the description before, first, crit rate after each displacement, crit damage, and lifesteal. Fantastic. Chef's kiss for Nord. So good. Absolutely love that. Would love to get another set for Rickard. I just haven't been lucky with the drops yet. And then they added Fadeout, which is an interesting set. Crit rate and conditional crit damage. It feels like you may be able to start tailoring teams and gear sets for bosses, for guild hunt bosses at a certain level. You know, when you get below 50%, Artist starts to become pretty effective, at least in some of the bosses, to reduce their damage reduction even more. Pair that up with a Fadeout set for constant uptime of plus 50% crit damage. There's potential there. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm like, oh wow, that's really good. But for some situations where you're trying to hyper optimize things, I could see it. I could see it being useful. So with that, I think that's all the new gear sets that were introduced. So from there, we'll take a look at some of the story mode Nord usages, show off a little bit of that Marauder set in action, and a whole lot of manualing. We'll probably call it a wrap. I think I've got 3 or 4 clips of random story stages ready to go, so we'll play those out. Hopefully find it useful. Feel free to drop any questions you have in the comments. Thanks for watching, and take care.